If you're listening to this, there's a good chance that something in your life didn't go the way you hoped. Maybe a plan collapsed in your hands. Maybe you missed an opportunity you thought was yours. Maybe the people you counted on didn't show up when you needed them most. You might be carrying a quiet ache, the kind that makes you replay conversations at 2 in the morning and ask yourself questions that don't have satisfying answers. Why did this happen? What does it say about me? Will I ever get it right? Let's sit together for a moment, you and I, and breathe. Not to push away the ache, but to make room for it without fear, without judgment. Failure can feel like a locked door, but it's often a door with a handle you can't see from where you're standing. The Stoics, those practical philosophers of the ancient world, spent their lives learning how to find that handle. They didn't chase a life without setbacks. They practiced how to stand within setbacks without losing themselves. Their wisdom isn't dusty museum talk. It's a toolkit for days exactly like this. Why is this topic so important? Because how you relate to failure quietly shapes your character. If you believe failure is proof you are unworthy, you will shrink from life. If you believe failure is a teacher, you will grow. If you believe failure is a verdict, you will hide. If you believe failure is data, you will try again, better. The unspoken truth rarely mentioned in our quick fix culture is that a meaningful life isn't built by permanent victory. It's built on a lucid relationship to defeat, not dramatic bravado. Quiet clarity. So this is our plan. We will talk like friends. I will share a Stoic perspective, gentle, direct, and deeply practical, on what failure is, how to handle it, and how to use it as a chisel that carves you into someone stronger, steadier, and freer. We'll move in a single thread, simple and coherent, like a walk along a river, first addressing the myths that make failure feel catastrophic, then shifting to what is and isn't in your control, then learning how to turn setbacks into training, then building habits that make you resilient, then meeting the social pressure that comes with failing in public, and finally, forming a personal protocol that you can use the next time you fall, because life guarantees there will be a next time. Ask yourself, as you listen, what if I could experience failure without the spiral of self-punishment? What if I could feel the sting, but not the shame? What if this moment, yes, this one, could become the exact material for my growth? Let's find out. Part 1. The unspoken truth. Failure isn't an identity. The first unspoken truth is simple, but it shatters 1,000 quiet lies. Failure is an event, not an identity. You failed at something. You are not a failure. That sentence may sound like a motivational poster, yet it is a surgical distinction in Stoic practice. Events occur in time. Identities live in your mind. When an event ends, it's over. When an identity locks in, it colors everything. Why do we fuse the two? Because our culture often treats outcomes as a mirror of our worth. If the project succeeds, you're brilliant. If it collapses, you're incompetent. If the relationship thrives, you're lovable. If it ends, you're flawed. But outcomes are influenced by whether you can't control market shifts, another person's free will, the 1,000 small coincidences that move unseen. Does it make sense to let those crosswinds determine your value? Consider the archer. They can choose their stance, their breath, their aim, and the moment they release the arrow. But after the arrow leaves the bow, wind, movement, and sheer chance play their parts. The archer can judge their technique, but not the final landing of the arrow. A clear life follows the same logic. You own your preparation and your effort. You do not own the result. When the arrow lands off the mark, you ask, what in my preparation can be improved? You do not say, I am worthless. Ask yourself, when something goes wrong, what story do I tell about who I am? The story might sound like I always mess up, or I'm just not the kind of person who succeeds. Those stories feel safe because they explain the pain, but they also trap you. The Stoic response is shorter, truer, and kinder. This is data. This is information. This is a signal about methods, not a judgment about my essence. From this posture, failure becomes a teacher instead of a guard at the gate. And here's a second truth, closely tied to the first. Failure is inevitable when your aims are alive. A life without failure is not a life of mastery. It's usually a life of small, riskless loops. Growth demands exposure. You can't learn to navigate deeper waters by wading in the same shallow pool. forever. So if you're failing, it may be a sign that you are engaging with the real world rather than curating a version of it that never pushes back. That's courage, not disgrace. This shift event, not identity, exposure, not disgrace, begins a new relationship with your own story. But to protect this new relationship, you need a compass. The Stoics called that compass the distinction between what is in your control and what is not. Part 2. The compass, control and surrender. Imagine carrying a pocket compass in a city you don't know. You don't need a map of every street if you can reliably find north. The Stoic compass divides life into two categories: what you can directly control and what you cannot. You control your judgments, your intentions, your choices, and your effort. You do not control other people's decisions, random events, past outcomes, or most of the future. Failure hurts most when we mistake one category for the other. Let's translate this into something tangible. Suppose you interviewed for a role you truly wanted and were rejected. What belongs to you? Your preparation, the quality of your portfolio, the skill with which you communicated, the steadiness of your breath as you spoke, the discipline of your follow-up. What does not belong to you? The hiring manager's taste, the budget, the internal politics, and the timing. So what is failure here? It's not the rejection letter, which you cannot control. It's where your preparation and your presentation fell short, which you can refine. This distinction isn't a trick to avoid responsibility. It's the opposite. It frees you to take full responsibility for what is yours and to stop bleeding energy into what isn't. Does that mean you never influence what isn't yours? Of course not. Influence and control are different. You can influence outcomes with better methods, but when results arrive, you greet them like weather, you accept them, and then decide what to do next. Try this simple dialogue with yourself the next time you fall. What part of this is truly mine? What part is truly not mine? What is one thing I will do today in the part that is mine? This small ritual is like recentering your compass. It draws you out of the fog of why me into the clarity of now what. A final note for this section: surrender is not apathy. Surrender is a clear-eyed acceptance of reality so you can move with it rather than against it. The river doesn't care how you feel about its current. It just moves. You can waste a day shouting at the water, or you can learn to swim where the current helps you and fight where it matters. Failures expose currents. Use them. Part 3. The workshop of adversity, turning setbacks into training. Picture a craftsman's workshop tools arranged with care, dust in the sunlight, wood shavings curled like little scrolls. The Stoic mind treats adversity as a workshop, a place to train. The grain of the wood pushes back against the blade, and the resistance shapes both the wood and the craftsman. Failure is the moment the blade skids. The question is, do you quit the craft, or do you adjust your angle? This workshop mindset has 3 parts: attention, analysis, and adjustment. Attention comes first. Can you look at what happened without flinching, not with the harsh judgment of a critic, but with the steady gaze of a student? Attention says, let me see the thing as it is, not as my fear paints it. That means naming the facts. The deal fell through, the essay was rejected. The performance was average. The friend didn't call back. Facts are the ground under your feet. Without them, you float in stories. Analysis comes next. What preceded the outcome? Where were the assumptions? Where did the plan rely on luck? Where did you overestimate or underestimate? What signals did you ignore? Analysis is not an inquisition, it's a curiosity. It asks, if I had to teach someone else how to avoid this exact outcome, what would I tell them? The phrasing matters. When you become a teacher of your failure, you move into a position of agency. Adjustment closes the loop. What, specifically, will you change? Maybe it's the time horizon you set for your goal. Maybe it's the feedback you sought earlier. Maybe it's the skill you need to train under pressure, not just alone in your room. Maybe it's the way you rest, because exhaustion consistently erodes your judgment. Adjustment is a behavior, not a wish. Now, because we are human, the workshop of adversity can get messy. You might feel shame or anger while you analyze. That's okay. Let your feelings be present, like the weather in the workshop, but don't hand them the tools. You are not suppressing emotion. You are prioritizing skillful action while emotion settles, there's dignity in that. A practical suggestion: keep a failure journal, not as a confession booth, but as a lab notebook. After each setback, small or large, write down what happened, what was in your control, what wasn't, what you learned, and the single adjustment you will make next time. Over weeks and months, you will build a personal library of wisdom. You will also dissolve the superstition that failure is an omen against you. It's just a signal in the data set of your life. Part 4. Practicing failure safely, pre-rehearsal and voluntary discomfort. You wouldn't run your first marathon at race pace without training your lungs and legs. Yet many of us expect to meet life's hardest moments with muscles we've never trained. The Stoics practiced something we might call failure rehearsal, imagining or even inducing small, controlled difficulties to learn how to respond. One way to practice is a mental technique often called premeditation of adversity. Quiet yourself and, for a few minutes, picture a plan not working out. Let your mind walk through the sensations, the email that doesn't arrive, the silence after you share your work, the criticism that stings. Then ask, if that happened, how would I act within my values? What would I do on day one? Who would I tell? What would I adjust? You are not catastrophizing. You are rehearsing. You are making a map for a terrain you might visit. Then, if you do arrive there, your nervous system recognizes it and does not panic. You have already practiced breathing. Another way is voluntary discomfort. Small, safe, temporary challenges that build your tolerance for things not going your way. Take a cold shower for 30 seconds. Walk a short distance without your phone. Eat a simple meal when you could have more. Leave your car farther from the door and walk in the rain. These aren't moral badges. They are controlled micro-failures, a way of teaching yourself, I can be uncomfortable and still be okay. When a real failure occurs, your body already knows how to feel discomfort without collapse. A third way is tiny experiments that make error a feature, not a bug. Suppose you want to start sharing your writing in public. Instead of staking everything on a single perfect post, commit to 20 short drafts in 20 days. Expect that many will be ignored. But because each piece is small, the cost of one poor outcome is low, and the learning compounds quickly. You are training the rhythm of attempt, learn. Adjust, not the drama of one heroic shot. You might ask, isn't this just lowering stakes? In one sense, yes. You deliberately shrink the arena so that failure is survivable and therefore teachable. In another sense, you are raising the stakes in the right place. You are making your daily practice non-negotiable. The Stoic standard is not a single dazzling victory. It's a steady ability to face what comes and do the next right thing. Remember, courage is not the absence of fear. It's skilled action while fear is present. These small practices cultivate that skill. Part 5. The social weight of failure, shame, comparison, and the crowd. So far, we have spoken about your inner response to failure. But there is another layer, other people. We live in public, and public failure can feel heavier than private failure. Sometimes the fear of looking foolish outweighs the discomfort of the actual mistake. How do we carry that social weight with grace? Begin by noticing the stories you tell about the crowd. You might imagine them as a chorus of critics, each ready to laugh at your stumble. But the crowd is busy with their own lives. The harsh spotlight you feel is often a desk lamp on your desk, pointed straight at your face. When you change the angle of that lamp, when you direct your attention back onto your behaviors, not onto imagined commentary, your posture changes. Next, choose whose opinion counts. Not every voice should be a judge of your progress. If you build your sense of worth on random applause, you will be a leaf in every wind. Instead, identify a small group, perhaps a mentor, a peer you respect, a friend who tells you the truth, and let their feedback matter. Everyone else's noise. This is not arrogance, it's hygiene for your mind. It limits exposure to unskilled criticism and opens you to the kind of feedback that helps you grow. Then, practice how you talk about failure in public. Shame thrives in secrecy. If you can name your mistakes with calm precision, you rob shame of its favorite tool. You don't need a confessional tone or self-deprecation. Try sentences like, I tried X and it didn't work because Y. Here's what I'll do differently next time. This stance models something rare: responsibility without theatrics. It also invites useful conversation. People can help you when you state the problem clearly. Comparison is another social burden. You might look at someone who seems to never fail, someone whose projects always shine, but you are comparing your raw footage to their edited reel. You're seeing outcomes without seeing the practice. The Stoic cure for comparison is not denial. It is returning to your sphere of control. What can I do today to improve my craft? What can I learn from this person's methods? When you ask those questions, admiration becomes fuel rather than poison. Finally, treat kindness as a strategy, not just sentiment. When you fail, be kind to others anyway. Kindness stabilizes you. It keeps your field of vision wide. It reminds you that your value isn't tied to a single outcome and that you still have something to offer the world, a generous word, a steady presence, a moment of help. Even on days when you feel small, you can be a source of warmth. That is power. Part 6. Building the inner stance. Principles for resilient living. Let's gather the threads into a living stance you can carry into your days. Think of this as posture rather than a checklist. You don't need to perfect it. You just practice it a little more each week. First, embrace reality quickly. When a plan fails, don't spend days acting as if it didn't. Name it. Reality is the only place skill can grow. Second, return to your compass. Separate what is in your control from what is not. Make one move in the realm that is yours. Do it today, even if it's small. Third, examine the failure as data. Ask what you would teach someone to avoid this outcome. Extract one lesson. Apply it in your next attempt. Repeat. Fourth, rehearse discomfort. Spend a few minutes each day practicing small, safe challenges. Let your body learn that discomfort is survivable. This is armor you can wear without looking like you're wearing armor. Fifth, guard your attention. The crowd will always talk. Choose whose voice counts. Keep your lamp pointed at your craft. Sixth, attach your identity to your virtues, not your outcomes. Who are you? Regardless of how today's arrow lands. Maybe you are someone who shows up, who tells the truth, who learns fast, who helps others even on hard days. Build from there. Seventh, keep a long horizon. Many of our most important skills grow slowly. If you judge yourself only by short-term results, every week will feel like a referendum. Step back. The river is long. You are still walking. If you hold these principles loosely like a handful of water, not a clenched fist, you will find that failure stops being a personal apocalypse. It becomes a phase in a cycle. Aim, act, learn, refine. Over time, that cycle builds something sturdy, a character that can be trusted by you. Part 7. The protocol. What to do the next time you fall. Let's make this exact. Imagine that tomorrow, something significant goes wrong. You miss the deadline. Your business pitch has been declined. The person you love says they don't see the future you imagined. The floor opens. What do you do? Step by step, without drama. First, breathe and name it. Say quietly, this happened. Not I can't believe it. Not this always happens, just this happened. To slow breaths in and out through the nose. This creates a small island of steadiness from which you can act. Second, write on paper, if possible, in a few sentences. Describe the event as if you were a reporter. Avoid adjectives, just the facts. Then draw two columns, mine and not mine. Under mine, list what was in your control, choices, habits, preparation. Under not mine, list the rest, timing, other people's decisions. Random events. Circle one item in the mine column that you can act on within the next 24 hours. Third, seek a calibrated conversation. Share a summary with a trusted person. Here's what happened. Here's what I think I controlled and what I didn't. I'm considering doing X next. Any thoughts? Keep it short. Invite specific feedback. If you don't have someone on hand, speak the summary aloud to yourself. Hearing your voice often clarifies your thinking. Fourth, adjust and re-enter. Take the one action you identified, rewrite the paragraph. Practice the pitch with a timer. Schedule the learning you've been avoiding. Repair the relationship with a direct apology. And apply for 2 more roles with an improved portfolio. Small and immediate beats grand and delayed. Fifth, ritualize closure. After you act, do something that signals I am back in motion. Maybe it's a walk. Maybe it's tidying your workspace. Maybe it's a simple meal, eaten with presence. The point is not productivity theater, it's giving your nervous system a closing bracket so the event doesn't sprawl through your whole day. Sixth, revisit in a week. Put a note in your calendar to check back. Ask, did the adjustment help? What did I learn since? What will I tweak next? You're not obsessing, you're tending to your craft. This protocol is not a rigid law, it is a gentle hand on your shoulder, guiding you toward clarity when your mind wants to spiral. Practice it now while you're calm, so that it's available when you're not. Part 8. Stories we live by. The archer, the blacksmith, and the gardener. Humans think in stories. The Stoics used images and metaphors so that wisdom could travel easily in the mind. Let me offer you 3 stories to keep close when failure visits. The archer we already met. It teaches responsibility without ownership of outcomes. On the days when your arrow lands far from the target, repeat, I can improve my stance, breath, and aim. The wind is not mine. Then go back to your practice with quiet dignity. The blacksmith is another. Imagine standing by the forge. A bar of iron glows in the coals. The blacksmith strikes, and sometimes the hammer glances off because the angle is wrong or the heat isn't ready. That misstrike is not evidence that the blacksmith is hopeless. It's feedback about timing and posture. They adjust, reheat, strike again. Each failure shapes the next attempt over the years. The blacksmith's hands and eyes learn subtleties. No book can teach. Your life is like that. Every misstrike has a message. When you hear it, you become someone who can build things that last. The gardener gives us the 3rd story. You plant seeds, water them, and tend the soil. Some sprout, some don't. A storm comes and ruins a bed you worked on for weeks. You grieve, yes, then you replant. You work with seasons, not against them. You learn which corners of your plot love the sun and which need shade. Your failures in spring make your harvest better in fall. The gardener's patience is not passivity, it's an intimate partnership with reality. When things die, they become compost. When you let failed attempts become compost, they feed your future work. These stories are not fantasies, they are lenses. Through them, your failures transform from inner accusations into outer materials. You stop saying, this means I am unworthy, and start saying, this is wood, this is metal, this is soil, and you get to work. Part 9. Love as a tactic, keeping your heart open. Failure can make the heart curl in on itself. We protect our tenderness by hardening, but the Stoic path isn't a denial of feeling, it's a disciplined love. What does that mean here? It means you keep your heart open to yourself and others, even as you assess the wreckage. You talk to yourself the way you would speak to a friend whose project just failed, yes, but with warmth. You remind yourself that your worth was never up for vote. You remember that every person you admire has failed repeatedly. You refuse to weaponize your mind against yourself. This isn't indulgence, it's strategic. A closed heart cannot learn. A soft front and a strong back, kindness with backbone, make you more capable, not less. When your heart stays open, you can ask better questions, invite better feedback, and persist without bitterness. You become trustworthy to yourself, and that trust will carry you through difficulties far more effectively than a clenched jaw ever could. One more expression of love, gratitude, not the sugary kind that denies pain, but the sober kind that looks at a mess and says, I'm grateful for the chance to learn this before the stakes got even higher, or I'm grateful that even in this, I have people, breath, a body, a mind that can try again. Gratitude loosens the grip of despair. It doesn't delete the failure. It simply reminds you there is more to the picture than the part that hurts. Part 10. The long game, rewriting your relationship with time. We often misjudge failure because we look at it through the keyhole of the present moment. From that angle, a single bad outcome looks like a verdict. Step back. Imagine zooming out on your life the way you'd zoom out on a map. Today's disappointment becomes a street in a much larger city. When you widen your horizon, 2 things happen. First, you see that many of your most valuable qualities were forged in periods you once wanted to avoid. Have you noticed that? The patience you now rely on was learned when you had to wait. The resourcefulness you admire in yourself was born when you didn't have enough. The courage you bring to conversations was formed when someone challenged. If you erase failure, you erase the training that made you who you are. Second, you start playing a different game. Instead of asking, "How can I win this moment?" you ask, "How can I become the kind of person who wins over many moments?" That question changes your daily actions. You choose to practice when no one is watching because you're building for years, not for likes. You recover faster from mistakes because you know you will need your energy tomorrow. You measure success by the consistency of your values, not just by quarterly metrics. Ironically, this long game posture often produces better short-term results. But even when it doesn't, your spirit remains intact. The long game also honors the unpredictability of life. Some seeds sprout slowly. Some ideas need a season of quiet before they break the surface. Some relationships evolve only after time has softened their edges. Failure in the short term sometimes positions you for a better long-term fit. You couldn't have planned. You don't need to force these arcs. You just need to keep showing up with your compass, your workshop, your stories, and your open heart. Let's return to where we started. A moment of failure, the ache in your chest, the endless self-questioning. Maybe as you've listened, your breath has slowed. Maybe you feel a little more space inside the feeling. That space is not empty. It's full of choice. The unspoken truth about failure is that it isn't the villain we imagine. It's a messenger, sometimes loud, sometimes clumsy, but always bearing information about where you stand and how you can move more skillfully. It isn't your identity. It isn't a curse. It isn't the final word. It's a chapter in a long book you are still writing. From the Stoic Perspective, what matters is not whether you stumbled. Of course you did. Everyone does. What matters is whether you learn to distinguish your circle of control from the rest. Whether you can look at the event without turning it into an indictment of your worth. Whether you can bring curiosity to the scene of the fall. Whether you can practice discomfort so that the next fall does not break you. Whether you can meet the social gaze with calm, accept helpful feedback, and ignore noise. Whether you can keep your heart open, your posture steady, and your timeline long. You may still feel tender. That's okay. Tenderness is not weakness. It's the part of you that still cares. Let it remind you that you're alive, that this moment matters, that you are not numb to your dreams. Then, let steadiness join tenderness. Let your breath be the bridge between them. Before we close, let me offer you a simple image. Imagine placing this failure, whatever it is, on a workbench in front of you. Step back half a pace. You're not standing in it, you're looking at it. Around you are your tools, your compass of control, your habit of analysis, your willingness to practice, your small circle of trusted voices, your stories of the archer, the blacksmith, and the gardener, your love that stays open even when it hurts. You reach for one tool now, just one, and make the smallest next move. You don't need to fix everything in an hour. You only need to be faithful to the next right action. And then the next one. This is how character is built, not by grand announcements, but by quiet repetitions. Not by pretending you never fall, but by learning, over time, exactly how you rise. So rise, not with a shout, but with a breath. Stand, not with defiance, but with dignity. Walk, not with certainty about outcomes, but with confidence in your practice. The road ahead is still yours. The weather will change. The arrow will sometimes miss. The hammer will sometimes glance. The seed will sometimes fail to sprout. And you will remain present, learning, adjusting, offering what you can day by day. That is the Stoic victory, hidden inside what others call defeat. When you close your eyes tonight, may you feel the steady weight of your agency in your hands. When morning comes, may you take that agency into the world with gentleness. And if you fall again, and you will, may you remember that the floor is not a verdict. It is a surface you know how to push from, so that you can rise. Now breathe once more. Name the truth. Take your step.